Hello there, Tanya Gustafson here, your nutritionist and fitness coach. Welcome to another episode of Fit Nutrition Podcast. Today, we're going to talking about 4 food myths that keep you from losing weight. So, first of all, I want to know where you are watching in from. Just drop it down below in the chat. And as I'm going through these 4 myths today, if you have any questions on them, or if you have another myth that you've figured out in your life, please add it to the list, because more education, more knowledge is what we're all about here in our Fit family. Okay, so let's just dive right in. So 4 food myths that keep you from losing weight. All right, so at the top of my list, oh my gosh, is you got to give up carbs. We've all heard this, right? It's been all over social media. It's been all over the internet. A lot of diets advocate low carb or no carb, or make sure you only have these carbs on certain days and those carbs on other days, and make sure you count your carbs, right? We've heard it all. It's been everywhere. Now, the thing is, carbs are one of our macros. What are macros? Those are the larger food groups. So our micronutrients are our vitamins and minerals and water, things like that. And then our macronutrients are our proteins, fats, and carbs, right? That's what you hear me talk about all the time. PFC, every 3 are proteins, fats, and carbs. And we need all 3 of those together. It's like the 3 musketeers. It's that trifecta. It's that perfection of things that we need to put together to balance. And if we balance those things, we balance our body. It creates homeostasis, that fancy scientific word that means we're just all balanced and our body's going, oh, those little Revelation commercials where they like this. That's what your body does. It's so super happy. It's so in line, and it feels great when we do that. Pretty simple, right? There's some more things that we can do to optimize that for sure, but that's the basics. And so if we are cutting out our carbs, first of all, why do we need the carbs? What are the carbs? The carbs are your energy source. So if you're removing the macronutrient out of that trifecta there that gives you energy, where do you think your energy is going to come from, right? It's going to be super difficult to have an optimal amount of energy to feel energized throughout the day if you're pulling out all those things that give you energy. Plus which, now a lot of people, so this might be a revelation to you, I'm not sure, but some people believe that carbs are only the processed things, like your breads and your pasta and your rice and muffins and all of that kind of stuff. Those are carbs, absolutely. They are highly processed carbs, but your fruits and vegetables are also carbs as well. So when diets are advocating that we give up carbs, I mean, a lot of times we assume that they just mean the processed things, and hey, less processed is always better, less processed is best. But when they're advocating, oh, you can't eat these certain fruits, and you should only eat these certain vegetables, and you can only eat these on certain days, and just giving up carbs is not so great because there's sugar in all those fruits and vegetables. But there's also fiber and vitamins and minerals and phytonutrients. So if you are pulling all of those things out, that's where your energy is coming from, because they are more nutrient dense. And now, even if you're eating a processed item, that is where your energy is coming from. So, a little bit of education here, your 1% coaching. If you put, if you're choosing to eat a processed carbohydrate, try as best you can to put it together with a good quality protein and a fat. It's going to make your balance just that much better. It's going to make you balanced, number one, and it's going to sort of help, not fully, but help to mitigate some of because it's highly processed, it's going to get in there and spike really fast. So if you can eat the protein and the fat first and then do the highly processed thing at the end, you're really going to have a much better benefit. So there's a little bit of 1% coaching for you on that. But number 1 in the food myths is you need to give up carbs. No, we just busted that myth. No, we're not giving up carbs, because carbs are our energy, right? Okay. Myth number 2, fat makes you fat. No, it doesn't. Anyone who grew up during, was a teenager or young adult in the 80s and 90s, I'm dating myself here, but that's where I was. Don't you remember hearing about, oh, you have to have low fat, no fat, You shouldn't be eating fat. It's not good for you. Put it back, look for the low fat always. That was the deal, right? It was like, oh, fat was demonized. And then instead of having butter, there was, because that's a trans fat, it's not so great for you. Then there was, that's a saturated fat. It's not good for you. Saturated fats come from animals, are not great for you. And so then trans fats were made, which is your margarines and all of those things that are highly processed, again, which aren't really a whole lot of whole food items in there. Let's just say there's a lot of chemical reactions going on. So how do you think that's going to react in your body? Number one, if you're taking in a chemical a chemically derived or an edible oil product, because that's literally what margarine is, people, and those little creamers, things like that, it actually says edible oil product on it, or it used to say edible oil product on those little creamers for your coffee. Yeah, so all of those things were then brought in to replace our regular cream or milk or butter or all of that, right? And so so that was like, well, it's better, you should eat this, not that, right? You should eat this because this doesn't have any saturated fat in. But what they didn't realize at the time was all of those trans fats, all of those manufactured fats were more detrimental to your health. And it just sparked a massive health crisis that we're still reeling from, and we still haven't recovered from, honestly, because our nation is at the most unhealthy we've ever been. So you need fat to burn fat. We're back to our 3 macros, right? Our proteins, our fats, and our carbs. So we talked about carbs, but our proteins and our fats, we need that fat in order to burn fat. If we're not balanced, if we can't put our body into that homeostasis zone, for those of you who follow me, you've heard me talk about like the cruise control, right? Your body's your vehicle that drives you through life. Being on cruise control, you're in that zone, in that fat burning zone. Your body is humming along really nicely. You're balanced. It's releasing stored fat. It's protecting your muscle. It's you got lots of energy, all of those kinds of things. And that only happens when you have all 3 components, your protein, fat, and carbs, all 3 of those macronutrients, those large nutrients. So again, if we're pulling one of those out, what does that do to the balance? Well, it throws out the balance. So unless your protein that you're having also includes a fat, like if you're having beef or salmon, something like that, then you do have some fat in there. But for all of those people who still believing that, well, if I eat fat, I'm going to get fat. It's a whole mindset shift. You have to shift away from that, because just know that your body needs fat in order to burn fat. It slows down digestion, so that when and it's also helpful in brain development and joint health and all of those kinds of things. You get the omegas from the fat in your salmon, for example, and that's really good for joint health and heart health and good for lowering inflammation and all of those things. So it's good for a lot of things. Again, we wouldn't want to have like, a whole bowl of it kind of thing, but you want to be able to know that, number one, you want to have a real food item. So if you are someone who eats dairy, butter over margarine every single time, no question, throw the margarine in the garbage. I'm just going to say it, throw it away, do yourself a favor, go buy a block of butter. There we go. If you don't eat butter, that's fine. Coconut oil, olive oil, stay away from the vegetable oils. Again, those are highly processed and they are known to be toxic when used under heat and moisture. Well, where do we use oil? Cooking or salad dressing, washed vegetables, it doesn't make any sense. And it's putting a whole bunch of omega-6s in your body, which is a whole other topic, because that throws your omegas out of alignment as well too. And we don't want any of that, because it makes your body imbalanced and toxic. It's really, the inflammation level goes really, really high. Okay, so we just don't want to go there. But you do need fat. So making sure that you're eating good, healthy fats to add to your meals. Okay, so there we go. We busted that one. So number 1, first myth was you need to give up carbs. No, you don't. They're your energy. Number 2 myth was fat makes you fat. No, it does not. You need to slow down digestion and balance your proteins and your carbs so that your body can release stored fat. So we just busted that. Myth number 3, sugar-free is healthy, right? If we're not eating sugar, well, then it must be a healthy item. Well, number 1, just because something says sugar-free doesn't mean the rest of the ingredients in there are A, whole foods, or B, have any sort of nutrient value whatsoever. Because if you're reading a package, if you're reading a label, chances are it's a processed item anyway, so the quality is just naturally lower. Okay. But if you're looking specifically for, I want to lower my sugar intake, but I really do like, this kind of a food for once in a while. I know if it's in a package, box, bag, can, or wrapper, I know it's going to be a carb, but I'm trying to minimize my sugars, or I'm watching it for my kids. I'm trying to minimize my sugars, sugars for them, whatever. But just because it says sugar-free doesn't mean it's healthy. So check and see what the sweetener is, because food tastes good because of fat and sugar. So if it's something that maybe doesn't have a lot of fat, then it would have sugar or a sweetener in order to have flavor, and vice versa. If it doesn't have the sugar, it will have the fat. So what kinds are being used? So if the sugar replacement is a stevia or a monk fruit, that's awesome. It's a smart plant sugar. It has zero glycemic index. It's not going to spike your blood sugar. Chances are that product as a whole may be healthier. I'm saying maybe because there's always the exceptions, right? Read your labels. But if your sweetener in that product is now sucralose or aspartame or NutraSweet or Sweet and Low or sucral, or pick any of xylitol, any of those things, the sugar alcohols, or the little packets that are, not stevia or monk fruit, then all of those things are toxins, and they can be neurotoxic, which means it causes cell damage to the cells that are in your brain. Not very good. We don't want that. I mean, we have a lot of cells in our body, but we want to keep them as long as we can, because eventually they do die off as we get older. We don't want to speed up the process. Plus, which those fake sugars, anything that we put in our body that is not a real food, it's a food-like substance, our body has to try and figure out what to do with it. It has to go through our liver. Your body has to detox it through all of our filtering systems. And if it's not recognizing it as an actual food or something that should be in our bodies that we can take in and metabolize and use for vitamins, minerals, phytonutrients, all of that kind of stuff, it's a little bit like, ooh, what do I do with this? And it kind of stores it away as fat. So there's been studies that show that those zero sweeteners like the aspartame and the sucralose and all those fake sugars, people started out having them because they thought, oh, well, I'm just going to have this soda. It has no sugar in it, so I'm fine. I'm not going to gain weight, because it's, creates this toxic overload in your body, and it disrupts your gut. So your gut can't properly digest. People have a lot of digestive issues if they're using a lot of fake sugars. It can cause brain fog and depression and lack of focus and lack of energy, poor sleep. Even symptoms as serious as that can mimic Parkinson's and MS and all of those kinds of things. I've read about different case histories where people had been, very, very poor health, and they were given diagnosis of MS or Parkinson's. I can't remember which one it was. And it turned out that they were drinking a lot of soda with artificial sweeteners, right? Like the sugar-free sodas. And so they removed those from the person's diet, and the symptoms eventually went away, and it didn't take very long. So that just goes to show, our body is very, very, good at healing and restoring. And if we give it what it needs, or we take away the stuff that's causing us harm, then it can actually repair and do what it's supposed to. So myth number 3, sugar-free is healthy. Nope, we've just debunked that one. Okay, last one. Myth number 4, just count the calories, and that'll help you lose weight. Just count the calories. I used to do that. Where's my sticky notes? I used to have sticky notes on my counters all over the place, on the right hand side of my kitchen island, writing down, how many calories I took in for the day, and fat grams, by the way, because, I remember I said I grew up in that era where they said, don't eat the fat. So here's me tracking my calories, tracking my fat grams, so that I could stay, at a certain number or within a range, because that was what was expected. And I would stop at a certain number of calories every day, regardless of what the food quality or quantity was. Mind you, I did usually eat pretty, whole foods most of the time, but regardless also of what output of energy I was doing during the day. So whether I was, out in the yard, and at one point we were, landscaping our entire yard when we built our house, So doing that, or it's raining, so I'm inside watching a movie with the kids all day on a Sunday. And I was eating the same amount. Now that doesn't even make sense, right? If your body's like your vehicle, if you are driving across the town or across your state or across your province, you're going to use a lot more fuel in your tank. You're going to go through a lot more fuel than if you drive down to the grocery store and back, right? It's just like the farther you go, the more demands you put on it, the more fuel you need. Body is the same way. So I was actually depriving myself in some instances and probably overfueling in others. So because all calories are not created equal, right? You can have one of those little mini bags of chips, you know, the kind you get for Halloween, whatever, they're probably like 120 calories. Or you can have a big green leafy salad and half a chicken breast for, 120 calories. Which one do you think is going to have more vitamins, minerals, phytonutrients, protein, healthy fats, some carbohydrates, all of those PFCs? And what does the bag of chips have? It has some salt, it has your carbohydrates for sure, but they're processed carbohydrates. It's also going to have some of those vegetable oils that are not so healthy for you. I talked about the omega-6s, right? It's going to be all of that, and it's going to have some fake flavorings and all of that. So which one do you think is going to keep you satiated longer, fuel your body better, protect your muscle, and really keep you balanced? Because if we're not balanced, our body's not releasing stored fat, right? It's not releasing fat, it is storing fat. Okay, so think about that. If we're not in balance, we're not releasing fat, we are storing fat. So think about it. Which one would you rather have when we put it that way? Sure, sometimes we do want the chips, but how about we eat the chicken with the salad and the steamed vegetables first and then have the chips after? Now we've put all that nutrient dense, good food into our body. We've had our healthy proteins, fats, and carbs. And so our body is nice and we're in homeostasis. We're zipping along like this with our blood sugar is stable. Our metabolism is turned on. It's fired up. Our body's releasing stored fat, is protecting muscle. Whereas if we're not balanced, we're burning muscle and storing fat. And then you add the chips on at the end. It's not going to spike up your blood sugar where you store fat because you've already got the protein and the other healthy foods in there, right? So if you were to just count those calories of those chips and tally that onto your day, as part of your total, you are missing out on all of those nutrients. So here, like literally, I would have, if you ate both, you're eating twice as many calories basically for that meal, but your body is stable. You are releasing stored fat. You're protecting your muscle. Your body's in homeostasis. You have more energy and you can focus and attend better. And you have lots of energy for the rest of the day. Whereas if you just ate that little bag of chips or whatever other 100 calorie snack is out there, kind of thing, you're not going to get that. So you're going to be hungry in about half an hour. It's not going to satisfy you for any length of time at all because you have no nutrition in there. So now you're going to want to eat something else, but then you're going to say to yourself, oh, but I just ate, so I can't eat something else. I shouldn't eat something else, right? I should wait because I ate already. So I'm just going to push through it. And even though your body's saying, okay, come on, you need some food, I need some food. And if you're super hungry like that, you feel that gnawing hunger, that's your body literally cannibalizing, because if you don't give it protein, it takes it from the only source it can, because your brain never shuts off. Your brain needs to have a protein source changed to glucose to send up to feed that brain. And if you don't feed it, it's going to take it from your own muscle. So we've just debunked that myth, right? All the calories are not created equal. Just count calories? No, it doesn't work. You need to count count on nutrient dense food. So focus on the nutritional value and the quality of the food rather than the number of calories, and you will serve yourself 100-fold each and every time. Like the results you're going to get are way, way, way better. And I think most people know this, but we get stuck in that number thing because that's what we've been taught for so many years. The dieting world is just, slammed that, just count the calories. It's calories in, calories out. If you burn off more calories, you're going to lose weight. Well, you will at the beginning, because everything in a diet works at the beginning. And I say works in quotation marks because if it doesn't work for life, if it doesn't make you feel good and be healthy and hold that weight that you need to do, to be at that weight and that health and hit your goals like you want, if you can't stay there without holding on by your fingertips and doing all these crazy jumping through hoop things, does it really work? right? I've been there, right? I'm sticky note queen. I've been there, and it does not work. So don't go there. All right, let's just to recap. We have busted 4 food myths that keep you from losing weight. Number 1, you need to give up carbs. No, you don't. They're your energy. Number 2, fat makes you fat. It absolutely does not. It slows down digestion and helps you burn fat. Number 3, sugar-free is healthy. Not necessarily. Those artificial sweeteners are just really like little death in a packet. They actually disrupt your gut and can make you gain weight. So don't go there. And number 4, just count the calories because all calories are equal. No, they're not. Focus on the nutritional quality of your food and you will serve your body much better. So I hope these 4 busting these 4 myths really helped you out today. I'd love to hear your takeaways down below. Thanks for joining in today on Fit Nutrition Podcast. See you back here again next week for another great episode. Have an awesome rest of your week.